All right, welcome to another episode of the Horse Racing Happy Hour. I'm back. It's 2024. It's time to come out of hibernation. I'm Mike Gandolfo. I'm joined by Radio Louie. This is we're on to our road to Preakness. That's what you're going by now. You're going by Radio Louie. You're a big
we're a little Radio Louie on a Thursday.
When people get here for Derby 150, they're going to be shocked by all the billboards, the bus ads, it's Radio Louie everywhere because he is the handsomest man in radio. Louis Rabeau. So that's
it's not hard to do.
It's not hard.
Not listening to this episode.
We got Dan Illman joining us and John Piazzik. Louis, before we get started, I want to play a live preview of what it was like seeing Illman at the Breeders' Cup. Okay, this is a live look in right here. This is Illman at the Breeders' Cup.
Well, look, let's get something to eat. There's a Red Lobster nearby. My treat. Maybe some other time. Shooter, I thought we were going to be friends. Oh, we're friends. We are. I just got to go. Okay, well, I'll be at the Red Lobster in case you change your mind, Shooter.
Guys, that's me in the bucket hat.
Listen,
we got big time.
Red Lobster. If I'm not there in an hour or so, just keep waiting. I just keep waiting. I'll get
there. I'm on my way, guys. I'm serious.
Just wait.
He also did the 9th hole at 9 trick with us too. The whole deal. So, so good to see you guys. Good to be back. I'm pouring myself a beer because it's been that kind of day. So there we go. If you can't tell by my hair and just how disheveled I look in general.
I got my Rich Strike cup today just to piss off as many people as possible.
I think every year for the rest of their lives, the Rich Strike people ought to send the Ethereal Road people a fruit basket or something. Because if that horse doesn't scratch, that's their whole lives are dedicated or because that horse scratched. So they should be.
I mean, you can do the same thing with that. I can't remember the horse's name anymore. That went out and set that torrid pace. If that horse doesn't set that torrid pace early on,
that's true as well. Yeah.
Let's be honest, guys. This episode should be called Also Eligible because we have the Pegasus World Cup on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And yes, it is our road to the Preakness show. We've got some very exciting racing at Laurel Park, weather permitting. I'm interested in your thoughts on the Pegasus, though, before we get started. Sure. Radio Louie, let's get going. Who do you like?
All right, so we're going straight to it. I will tell you, I will start a little unusual. I think Nimitz class hits the board. I'll start with that.
I'm your lipstick God's ears, Louis.
A serious contender to hit that trifecta. I mean, I was on Art Collector last year. I don't think a lot of people were, and so this is a race where you can get some value in it. I think you see Nimitz class come in here on top. The horse I can't figure out, number one, is Trademark. Trademark I can't figure out. I love the price. National Treasure, I think the 1 1/8 is way better for. So I actually think that there's a chance that that's one that can get out front, stay out front. How good is First Mission? I don't know. It's not a lot of races, but this is the kind of thing that Brad Cox just does. Again, I'm going to go a little off the board here. I think Skippy Longstocking wins the Pegasus World Cup on Saturday.
That is not real. No, come on.
From the Charles Classic to the Pegasus World Cup.
Yeah, another Mid-Atlantic interest in the Pegasus. And in fact, maybe back-to-back years.
Let's go.
Back-to-back years of a horse pulling off the Charlestown Classic Pegasus double. Pretty nice.
Are you worried about the outside post there, considering this horse's running style? I mean, he's got a lot of early speed. You mentioned National Treasure. You mentioned Hoist the Gold. There's not a long run to the first turn at Gulfstream. Are you worried you're going to get hung out wide there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No. Okay. So then you have to demand value. So what price are you willing to take on Skippy Longstocking if he is your...
I love the 8-1. Do you think I'm not getting 8-1?
Oh, I think you're getting 8-1, yeah.
Okay, then I'll take 8-1. Okay. Let's go.
I'd rather have 15-1 on Dynamic One with Pletcher and Irad Ortiz.
Okay.
Than have Skippy Longstocking there.
Well, the commissioner.
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Illman? Are you leaning in one way or the other?
Boy, I thought this was one of the toughest Pegasus World Cups in recent years. I mean, I like First Mission as a horse. I think
because the field sucks. The field sucks.
I wouldn't say the field sucks. Okay. I'd say it's probably not up to par from some of the other Pegasus World Cups. But to be honest, it's a great betting race.
It is a good betting race. It's not a $3 million field, though.
It's not a $3 million field, but you're getting 13 of them. And again, it should be a great betting race. And these horses have promise. Like First Mission, again, is a horse that's thus far in his career been all reputation. He hasn't yet put it together. He hasn't had much of a chance to put it all together. He's only raced 5 times. I think he has the potential to be the best one of this group. He should be right there. National Treasure, I think, showed in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile that he's probably more the Preakness horse than he was in his other races where he kind of lost his luster. I've decided to go with a horse that I think a lot of people are going to fade, and that's Hoist the Gold, who won the Cigar Mile, and he had everything his own way last time out at Aqueduct. It was a wet track. It was speed favoring track. He went to the lead. He had everything his own way. But I remember betting this horse in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and it was an odd race. We just didn't do anything in between horses, and when the race was over, he galloped out past everybody. He was really running. And I have a feeling he just doesn't like dirt in his face. He wants to go to the front, and I think they're going to take the lead away from National Treasure. Ride him like Knicks go, John Velasquez, and take this field wire to window at 10-1.
Any concern he's never gone 2 turns?
I think there's always a concern when he hasn't gone 2 turns. That's why I need double digits before I'm going to play him. I may not get it because he has that huge, albeit perhaps slop-infused, speed, track-infused buyer speed figure from his last race. But I would need at least 10-1, and I think the ride is key. I think you just go, you make National Treasure take a seat, and you see how far you want to go.
How about you, John?
I think the big question of Pegasus goes back to the Preakness. If First Mission didn't scratch, would he have won?
Right.
I feel like probably he does. I mean, as you said, he hasn't had a chance to really prove himself, but based on what we've seen, he has a lot of promise. I mean, he ran huge in the Lexington, I thought, at third asking back in mid-April, then comes back, wins first off a long layoff at Keeneland, runs, I thought, pretty well in the Clark last time out, ran a much improved figure, first time mistakes against older horses, ran a much improved figure on Visnet scale, has been working very well, should get a nice trip. I don't think Hoist the Gold is going to be he'll last in the lead. I think he's going to be sent for the lead, and he'll lead most of the way, but then he'll tire. I think National Treasure is going to be on the pace, and he'll stop it. I don't know if I can believe that last start in a dirt mile, only because it was such an outlier from his previous races. I just don't quite know what to make of it, and he'll get overbet because he's a Preakness winner. So First Mission is going to be my horse. I think Grant Aspen is being kind of overlooked too. He's also really lightly racing in improving form, ran well in the Harlan's Holiday last time out, and it should also get a nice trip near the leaders.
You give O'Connor much of a shot here, Dan?
I think it's a tough spot for him. I like him at this distance. He had such a perfect trip when he won the Harlan's Holiday last time out. He had the run of the rail. He was able to sneak on through. I didn't really think that much of that field. I do think this distance works, and I think he can pull a trip from this post position in behind what could be a hot pace. I'm interested more in Mike's horse, Dynamic One, because he's kind of the X factor in this race. You could make the argument that he might be the best pure closer. And let's say Hoist the Gold and National Treasure hook up in a speed duel. This horse is good enough on his best day. We haven't seen it in a long time because he hasn't raced much to run these horses down. If you look at his last race, isn't that just a prep off a year layoff, and you're only supposed to look at it as a freshening and a tightener off of a freshening, and that we should just not even worry about the running line?
Yeah, I don't know about that either, but I mean, it's a long time off between races for Dynamic One. I just don't know. I mean, I get it. I get the connections. I understand the desire for that, but I guess if you get that kind of number that you're shooting for that, it's not any worse than Skippy Longstocking on the outside. So
I think you're going to see a number in this race. I mean, you're either going to see National Treasure do what I guess the line thinks National Treasure is going to do, which it doesn't sound like any of us are real confident that's going to happen. Or I think you're going to see, I mean, you got some pretty insane numbers in here. When you think Trademark won the Clark and it's 15-1, Senior Buscador is 20-1. I mean, it's pretty crazy the kind of numbers you have in this, and I don't. Nothing here jumps off at me as like, well, this is, this horse is racing. That's it. So,
and I'll say this too. I think if you believe the Cigar Mile track was biased, and I do, and we'll get back to that actually when we talk about the spectacular bid. I mean, you almost have to like Senior Buscador in this spot, no? Because he ran so well on the biased track. Like there's no way that he could win that race given the circumstances he was in. But based on what happened early on, he ran, I thought, about as well as he could. He runs this race a lot. I don't know if he has enough natural early speed to be a contender, but I could easily see myself playing like a cold 8-6 exacta and try to catch a number underneath.
No, I think this horse is going to run on. You make an excellent point. It was a biased track, and he had no chance because he is a one-run closer. He has no speed whatsoever. Now, he should get the right setup. I've always been confused as to what kind of horse Senor Buscador is. Is he a true mile and an eighth, mile and a quarter horse? Is he better as sort of a 1 mile and a 16th late running type when he gets some pace? And I just think he's been campaigned at Southern California where his running style just doesn't really work, does it? That late running style, usually speed rules over there. But Gulfstream's kind of speed rules as well. If you give him a trip, he's going to be running on at the end. I think that's a very good point for John. And again, how can you argue with 20-1 on a horse that ran a big figure against the bias?
And is running grade 1. All right.
Say this too. I feel like Il Miracle number 10. He's 20-1 on the morning line. I feel like he's going to end up being kind of the steam horse of this field because he's only won one time against Great Stakes Company, but he competed in a Triple Crown event last year and got kind of some steam there. Just missed in the Fate 2 starts back. He could also set a nice trip, kind of in mid-pack, and has a pretty good middle punch. So I can see him hanging around for a slice and getting bet quite a bit off his 21 morning line.
It's interesting with him because I think you saw a horse who, of course, they wanted on the Derby Trail, never really happened for him. And then after that, he's been decent. I mean, the last couple of times out, he's won a grade 3, came in third in the Pennsylvania Derby, came in 2 in the Fayette. Came and showed in the Clark. You never know. I mean, that horse could be getting better with age, right? So.
He's kind of a cool horse because he's got a steel jaw. He was kind of a laughing stock on the Triple Crown Trail last year, wasn't he? Look at the odds he was in those races, and they kept running him time after time. Just looking at the PPs, he needed a Neil Miracolo in order to win those races. And then all of a sudden he shows up. And as you said, Mike, he's running good race after good race. He's maturing. He likes Gulfstream. I think he needs to take a slight step forward. And if John's right and he takes money, I think that puts him into underlay status, considering all the other quality grade 1, grade 2 types in this race.
I'll put $2 to win on every double-digit odds horse in this thing. I think I'm going to come out ahead. I think that's what I would do.
I do want to know, too, going back Nimitz class, this is his first start with 4 new connections. He was a homebred for Arrowwood Farm, Tom Coulter, for a while, but he was purchased after his last start where he came in third in the Leslie Mile at Parks. Now he's making his first start for a conglomerate led by Guitar Racing and George Weaver. He's had 3 workouts since joining Weaver Barn in what appears to be about mid-December. I mean, I love the horse very much. He's the exact kind of horse that I like watching. He's a hard try. He won a whole bunch in the Mid-Atlantic last year. But, I've seen Harper's first ride and riding with Biden play out in my head one too many times to believe in the Mid-Atlantic horses. So I'm cheering for him, but I got to fade him.
Louis left. We just lost Louis. It's all right.
Louis is disgusted with that analysis. He loves the class. He thinks.
I mean, as a fan, I love him. That's the thing. Like as a fan, I like.
Listen,
it's shameful. No, I agree with you 100%. I know Nimitz class. He's a nice horse. I'm rooting for him. I think this is a very, very tough spot, and it appears that Louis is having an earthquake of some sort.
I think he's just putting down his garage door. So, we're big fans of the Maryland breeding program. I can tell you that. How about that? We'll go with that one. So, John.
Well, he's a PA bred, but I cheer for all Mid-Atlantic bred horses.
I just said we're friends of the Maryland breeding program. That's all I said. I'm kissing ass here. That's basically what I'm doing. Just let me.
Well, actually, I know talking about Saturday's races, but on Sunday at Lowell, it's a very nice Maryland bred showdown. Quite possibly the 2 best Maryland breds in training are going to go at it in the Jennings. It's Post Time versus 7-11. 7-11, a 2-time stakes winner, both against older horses last year, albeit Maryland bred or Maryland sired. Post Time, of course, a Maryland bred 2-year-old champion, won the city of Lowell in his last start. I think both of them could have big campaigns, not just in Maryland, but in the Mid-Atlantic in general. So on Sunday, that's going to be a race to watch.
Before we move to anything at Laurel, I do have a question for Dan.
Yes.
On the Pegasus card in the late part of the sequence, who is more likely to lose, to not win their race? Let's put it that way. Hijazi or Warm Heart? They're both 8-5, 9-5.
I'm against Warm Heart.
Okay.
I think that simply because she might be shorter than that at post time, I actually don't like either one of them to win. I would rather have in both of those races. Warm Heart for me is a horse that I think if you're liking her, you're simply saying she has such an overwhelming class advantage over this field that it doesn't matter that she's going to be racing at a distance that, in my opinion, is far shorter than her best. Plus, her last race in Hong Kong, I thought there was no excuse. I know she was running against better horses. She had a perfect trip, tracking a slow pace. She had the lead in the stretch, and they ran her right over. Maybe she's just simply, again, too much for this group on paper. But I don't know. I think she's going to be a short price. I think there's some other decent runners in there.
There you go.
Hey, John, we'll move on to Maryland. Give us just an idea. We talked a little bit off air. What's going on at Laurel and Pimlico? What's the updates? How are the tracks? It's been some pretty rough weather, as you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, well, it snowed twice last week. We had a lot of snow Monday into Tuesday, then again Thursday into Friday. Last week ended up getting canceled, which is understandable. And then we had training at Laurel Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And at some point between Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, a track disintegrated. There was no training on Wednesday or this morning, Thursday morning. Racing was canceled for Friday. However, gallopers are being permitted. And the track maintenance crew, led by the great Ken Brown, are going to be working on the track all day. Fortunately, there's not going to be a drastic temperature change. Like it's not going to go from freezing 60 degrees. It's going to be in about the mid upper 60s on Friday, then dipping down into about the low upper mid upper 40s overnight, and then back in the upper 50s on Saturday. So no temperature changes. Track should be okay for Saturday. We'll not be surprised if we're still off track, but we should be good to go. Of course, people are allowed also to keep that as a recording in case I'm wrong and make me look like a tool, but that's my...
He'll cut his hair if that happens.
Every trainer I talk to is worried about the track condition. They're afraid because they haven't been able to train the last few days. They've basically all said that it's a mess. I think some of the out-of-town barns, especially the ones from Parks, might not chip in. So I think there is some concern that maybe this track isn't going to recover in time. I do think it's going to be wet, and I think it's another handicapping variable that you have to factor in. Watch the early races on the card. Try to distinguish a bias, and maybe you catch something late at a price.
If they do run, do you think the turf will be on? No one's laughing. No one's laughing. Nothing.
No. This is serious business on horse racing, and the turf is on. What are you talking about?
It's funny because it's funny because as a daily Maryland handicapper, whenever grass season stops, it's almost like, hey, it sucks, but at least you don't have to worry about races coming off the grass. And I was lulled into kind of a false sense of security last year, because last year we had no days at the winter meet canceled due to the weather, and now we've had 4. So I am getting what was apparently coming to me by getting all complacent.
There it is. All right. Anything else you want to promo here or talk about for Maryland, John?
Yes. If you are in the area, we're having a winter clothing drive sponsored by the Maryland Horse Foundation. Any new or lightly used winter clothes and or riding gear, we're happy to take them, and they'll be donated to riding programs in Baltimore County. If you're interested in donating something, call us up at 410-252-2100 or email the great Jeannie Schnell, Jeannie@MarylandThoroughbred.com. We also are going to have our career program this year, a 5-day extravaganza of all the career opportunities Maryland has to offer, both on and off the track. It's a wonderful program. I did it in its first year back in 2017. And for anyone out there who may be interested in a career in the industry, whether you're in Maryland or not, definitely something worth pursuing. So check that out at MarylandHorse.com. Applications are due April 19th. And of course, on the Pegasus Day card, there's 2 other Maryland connections. We have Intrepid Daydream, who was second last time out in the Sugar Swirl in the Inside Information, and Brittany Russell trainee Full Count Felicia in the Pegasus Filly and Maritosa. Best of luck to both of them.
There it is. All right. Well, then let's get on to some handicapping. We're going to talk about a late pick 4 sequence. Hopefully a Laurel. I guess we'll see. I mean, what do you think? Is it 50-50? 75-25?
Let's say, split the difference, I say.
Okay. So you got a 66% chance. We'll go with that. That it's going to be a Laurel. And we're going to start with the race and raid. This will kick off the late pick 4, and it is the extra heat. It is a 6 furlong dirt race for 3-year-old fillies. $100,000 on the line. Dan Illman, who do you like?
2 impressive debut winners face off. Reconcile the 3 for Linda Rice, 4 Heart for trainer Brittany Russell. Both have speed. It'll be interesting to see if they cancel each other out. Personally, I kind of like Heart in this race. Brittany, I talked to her, and she was very happy with the preparation of all of her horses. She feels that she got all of the work in before the rain, before the snow, and she's happy about Heart. She feels she can rate. Linda Rice said she's sending Reconcile to the lead in this race, so I like Heart sitting good second.
All right, Louis.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I mean, even before the morning lines came out 7 minutes before this show, I thought the 2 of them absolutely stood out. I'm not mad, Maryland. I promise. You got a good last race in the sequence. So I'm not mad. But no, I agree with Dan. I don't know how other people feel about this, but I love a horse coming out of a maiden win. Watching horses put it together, but especially a horse that wins on first asking. I think both of them are very good. I frankly don't know a lot about the Linda Rice trade Reconcile in this spot coming down. I do like that she's booked Rodriguez here in Maryland to do, for the mount here. I think that's a good idea here in this case. I was going to ask, is there any chance, because he is making the trip, gosh, I'm trying to remember. Someone's coming down from New York for the day, and I'm forgetting who it was that I saw in one of these races. If he was going to get more rep mounts anywhere else. But anyways.
Jose Gomez.
Thank you. Yes. And so I do think the 2 of them are the ones to beat. The only other horse that I would look at in here is coming out of that Gin Talking. It's Ronan Goddess. Maybe she runs a little bit better this time at 6 furlongs than she did at 7. But otherwise, I do think it's those 2 horses that are going to make up your winners for this one.
Hey, John, before you tell us about this race, Brittany Russell really just had like a breakout year last year. I mean, she almost had more in earnings last year than all her previous campaigns combined. Pretty close to it.
Yeah. But she's been getting better every year, as you mentioned, a career best campaign. In fact, the leading trainer in all of Maryland with 119 victories. And in fact, there's a banner year for all female trainers in Maryland. Brittany had a great season. Lacey Gaudet finished 6th in the fall standings, ended the season on an absolute heater. Carrie Brion also had a great end to her season. She ended up, I believe, 10th in the lower fall standings. And in fact, 10 women finished in the top 50 in the trainer standings. No other track in the country really came close to that most. So it's really a hotbed for female trainers here in the Mid-Atlantic. Love to see it.
You've been at this longer than I have in, certainly in more detail. Was last year the best year for female trainers ever between her, Linda Rice, and Jenna Antonucci?
I would have to imagine. I mean, as I alluded to, there's been kind of a tradition of great female trainers in the Mid-Atlantic. It's continuing again. And really, Brittany really hit a ground running. I thought she had her first winner back in 2018, had a lot of big clients kind of out of the box. And as her stable keeps growing and growing, she has done a great job managing them. And it could culminate with a big weekend. As I mentioned, she has very promising horses both Saturday and Sunday. And circling back to the extra heat, I do like her horse quite a bit in there, but I am going to try to beat her with somebody else.
Go for it.
And that being the other, I was setting myself up there. I was trying to beat her with the other Hammy Smith trainee, number 5, CC Royal, also for men's grow racing. Thought she ran really well second time out back on the 8th, and she broke her maiden going away after racing on the pace while wide, stretched out from 5.5 furlongs to a mile last time out. Might have been a little too much for her. Still, at all for the lead, held on pretty well. In fact, ran the best of anyone who was on that pace. Finished 3rd behind the very promising Maryland bred, Sheila's Warclad, who is not in today. However, we could see her in the wide country next month. Now, CC Royal cuts back from a mile to 6 furlongs. I think this is what she wants to do. I think there is kind of a risk of getting caught up in a duel with Reconcile and Heart, but she has shown some tactical speed earlier in her career. I think if Victor Carrasco, who has ridden her all 3 times, is patient and sits just off the pace, it could work out in her favor.
All right, there we go. We're going to move on to race 9, which is an allowance optional claiming race. And if you know anything about this show, I usually try to get quick picks on allowance optional claiming races. But this might be the greatest allowance optional claiming race of 2024 up to this point. Let's just go with that. So, and you're going to see names that you're going to know for sure. You know, I think like if you follow the show last year, John Piazek was literally selling coffee with Chris sweatshirts out of the back of his car. He has plenty of them left over. I think they're 3 for $1 right now. We got
Well,
Messier,
like 3 for a penny at this point.
Messier, who is the greatest hockey player of all time. I don't even know who that Wayne Gretzky guy is. You know, we got Joe.
Hillman agrees with you, by the way, on that one. Like, that's not even a question for Dan Hillman.
No.
It's like, Messier, of course. What are we doing?
Oh, you're a Rangers guy, right?
I mean, I mean, Gretzky was fine. I mean, Messier, he had something called grit. You know,
right.
That's what I like. You know, grit, desire. I mean, some pretty boy comes out there with his 99. I don't know. Not impressed.
Thank you.
Not impressed. Yeah.
Hockey
We
talk
got number 11
on the horse
all
racing
day
happy
long.
hour. Let's go. What about that?
And we got 2 of these horses up for a claiming price with Outlier and Yodel E-U, which is another great name. So listen, this is one of the greatest optional claiming races of all time. Louis, who do you have?
I love this, though, because we've been doing these Maryland shows long enough that if you've listened to this show for the last couple of years, you know Coffee.
You know how this feels.
You know these horses. I'm serious.
Mhm.
You know Yodel.
Yeah.
I think Dane's given that horse out on this show. I mean,
He has, yeah.
You know, it's that kind of race, and it's one of those that, you know, if you start to really pay attention to circuits, you get to know the horses that are in these races. I was a little surprised to see the short price on Messier here at 7-5. However, look, is he the class here? The answer is probably, is Dutrow just taking in horses right now and just running them off the page against everyone? That's also true. So if Messier wins here, I wouldn't be surprised. I know John's got a longer price horse in here that he's excited about. I love horses that win, and a horse that's already won this year, and he's coming down from Parks, we think, out of the Mancia barn, is Martini Martin the 5. Can he keep that win streak going? I'm not so sure against a horse of the quality of a Messier, but if I was looking outside of Messier, I would probably look at him.
Billman, he sets you up. You got to go.
First of all, I do want to say I love Coffee with Chris very much. He has outrun his pedigree no matter what he does for the rest of his life. I don't mean to take cheap shots at him. Tom, John, everybody, I love you guys very much. As Louis alluded to, I am fading Messier here. I mean, you know, he was very good, but that was 2 years ago. I mean, that Bob Lewis win was 2 years ago next week. Since then, he really has not come especially close to winning. I mean, yes, he did run well in Santana Derby, but ever since then, it's been one kind of mediocre effort after another. People are going to bet him because it's going to be a lot of folks at OTBs half paying attention, being like, hey, Messier, I know that horse, and betting him. I do like, I think it's kind of a 2-horse racing here. I like Martini Martin quite a bit. In a nice story, I think a $6,000 purchase at auction by Mike Sheffries, a big local owner who is quite the character. Hopefully you two get to meet him on Preakness week because he's great. Focus man for a $25,000 tag back in October at Delaware Park, and ever since then he's been climbing up the class ladder with brutal efficiency, and he's won pretty impressively every time. I mean, he's come from off the pace, in some cases pretty far off the pace, one going away each time. His figures keep getting better and better. He's answered every class test with authority. Last time out at Parks on New Year's Day, he faced second-level foes for the first time. Those kind of races can be kind of tough, but he answered the question, rallied, and won by a length. I think he should be hard to hold off here. Also want to give a shout-out to number 4, Shafts Bullet for Larry Fowler and Gil Capuano. Larry bred the aforementioned Intrepid Daydream, who'll be running at Gulfstream on Saturday. This one had kind of a tough trip in his last start, second off a long layoff, got caught wide every step, kind of faded late. It ran huge first off the layoff in his start prior, closed pretty well. just missed behind Magic Michael, who at the time was in great form. This one should just keep getting better with more races under his belt.
I'm just going to look at this race completely different. I think Messier shoots and scores. I think he still can run. His last race was his first start off of a long layoff. They ran him on synthetic sprinting, and that's just not his game at all. Plus, add in the fact that he kind of hit the gate at the start, was in behind horses most of the way. It was a good run from him off the layoff. He galloped out well. This distance is what he wants. And I think if he shows up with his usual A race, he's going to win. I agree with what John said about Shaft's Bullet. He might be my other horse in the race simply because he ran so big off that long layoff. I just think he bounced last time out. He's been given a little bit of time. I'm expecting him to run a lot better as well. But I think Messier's last race on synthetic showed he could still step. He's now with Dutrow. I just think he's the class of this field.
I'm sure as we speak, Dave Rodman is crafting his hockey pun for and Messier wins.
Yes,
he takes his stuff very seriously.
Dude, still one of our 6 or 7 most popular episodes ever is when we had him on and he just started telling New Orleans stories. I mean, Good God, holy hell. I mean, it was great. And then uncomfortable, and then great again. It was awesome. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because, if you think of him as so much a Maryland guy, I mean, he's been calling for 30 plus years, sure. You forget that he's a New Orleans native and called for a while out of Louisiana Downs.
I'm very excited to go to the Spectacular Bid Stakes, not necessarily just because I want to hear who you all think is going to win, but mainly I really just want to know who John Piazek's fangirl horse of the year is going to be for, who's going to be his new popsicle. That's what and so this is what I'm here for.
Doing this too long.
I came out of my freaking bedroom and woke up after a 3-month long nap to come back for this moment right here. John, this is the Spectacular Bid Stakes. It's a $100,000 race, 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds that are on that Preakness trail. Who do you like?
Top pick is number 4, Copper Tax. Not too creative, but I think he's going to be tough. And circling all the way back to the Aqueduct bias talk, he ran in the Remsen last time out. His second start around 2 turns, clearly a class test. And much like Senior Buscador, he really had no chance the way that race played out. I mean, as you've said many times, that track was playing toward speed horses on the rail. He was wide just about every step from off the pace. Unsurprisingly faded, lost by 14 lengths. Gary Caruana gave him rest of December off. He had 4 good workout sets, including a mile drill on Tuesday in 1:45. Fastest of 6 workers, I believe all of whom were Caruana trainees because that's one of his specialties, is working horses a mile. I mean, take out that Remsen and his other races had to bury these. I mean, he ran big in the James Lewis, overcame some traffic trouble to win by a neck. Weigeld, who was second that day, came back to win at Gulfstream next time, won some other races at Delaware by open lengths. I think he's going to be very tough as long as he doesn't hit too much trouble. Another horse I want to point out in here as a bit of a long shot, if you want to try to beat the favorite, is number 7, Sweet Sadie J. And as obscure as Copper Tax's form is kind of by that last start, I mean, Sweet Sadie J's form has been completely good. Because he's been trying a lot of spots, maybe a little bit over his head. He was in the Drome last time out. Didn't really handle the track, I think, and was well beaten. He was well beaten in his prior try at Aqueduct in the Champagne. But I think Laurel is where he wants to be. He ran really well in the Heft 2 starts back. Cut the corner well, finally changed leads, 1 going away. Ran pretty well, I thought, too, in the James Lewis, and may well have won that race, too, had he changed leads. His 2 best figures have come on this track. He gets back here. He gets Barbosa back in the saddle. I talked to Ray Ginter for a magazine store earlier this month. He says Barbosa fits that horse very well, and I'm kind of hoping, maybe bettors don't believe because of those bad races, but if his best self shows up, I think he is by far the most likely one to beat Copper Tax.
I'm expecting the 135 to scratch out of here, considering the conversations I had with the trainers. I agree with John that Copper Tax is the horse to be. The morning line can't be right. I mean, Copper Tax is going to be the favorite in this race. Everything he said about the Remsen is absolutely true. Inside track, he's 4 wide throughout. He actually gets checked a little bit on the turn, and he's running at the end. That distance is probably a little bit too far for him. I just think he's the best one right now. I do think Mission Beach, the number 2, is going to give him a little bit of a fight for Brittany Russell. However, I talked to Brittany. I talked to both of the trainers. Gary's very worried about the racetrack with Copper Tax, especially coming off a little bit of a freshening, because after the Remsen, he said he sent the horse to the farm for about 2-3 weeks to sort of wind down. He's got some works into him to get him back to 7 furlongs. That's why I breezed her a mile to try to get a little fitness into him. But I think he's worried about the track. They haven't been able to do anything with him. Brittany said she got all the work done with Mission Beach she needed. I think Mission Beach, his last race was pretty good. All things considering, the goal Brittany told me was, we want to teach this horse how to rate. Been on the lead in all 3 starts. Rated, finished. Distance is going to be this horse's friend. It's getting another furlong to work with. I think eventually he might overtake Copper Tax. I think on Saturday, Copper Tax gets the better of him.
And I will say too. Sorry. No, I will say, based on Dan's comments, I think it's not impossible that Brittany has her first Preakness starter with Mission Beach. I think of this group, he is most likely to enter the gate on the 3rd Saturday in May.
Yeah, I mean, Son of Curlin, all the numbers make sense for that horse to be ready when we get to that point in May. I wanted to ask, neither of you have mentioned the morning line favorite here. Is it Guinare? I apologize. Dan, are you looking at him? Is Dutrow going to ship? I assume he is, right?
I'm assuming he's going to come down for this race. It just seems like a really good spot when you look at his last Beyer speed figure. I mean, he runs that 88. All of a sudden, he is a major, major threat in this race. You see the change in form since Dutrow's taken over. 2 very, very impressive wins, and perhaps most importantly, 1 over a wet track. So this horse has good tactical speed, and I think with some of the scratches taking the speeds out, it allows this horse to stay closer to the pace, and I think that will raise his confidence level a little bit. It's obviously a huge step up in class, but if you're a figure player instead of a class player, then all of a sudden this horse is right there, if not the fastest horse in the race.
It's going to be interesting to see just the year for Rick Dutrow. I mean, I think it's going to be really just fascinating to watch. Does he build back that trust level and start getting some really big-time horses, especially horses who maybe have underperformed from other trainers, because he seems to have that magic touch right now, you know. And but
Dan, have you been surprised by that? I
No.
mean, he's been away for a long. You're not okay.
I've seen Dutrow for years and years and years before the suspension, and I've seen this before. He improves horses. You say what you will. You can question what's going on behind the scenes. You can question whether he's a great horseman. The bottom line is he has success. He moves horses up. White Barrio, we saw, trained by a very good trainer, Safi Joseph. Dutrow moved this horse up. He's moved Guinare up so far. So, no, I'm not surprised at all. And I think he's going to continue to get good horses. We saw Messier here. Who knows? I'm expecting if he stays out of trouble, he's going to have a pretty big year.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to me. He's hit the board in 10 out of 14 starts this year already. You know, I think 14 starts at this point's a little low. Hasn't even had a stake starter yet. So I don't know. This might be his first stake starter of the year. So we'll have to see what happens with Dutrow. But I imagine he could go a long way of just kind of rebuilding that barn. So, Louis, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like Dutrow's horse here. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm a figure guy in this race and not a class guy in this race. I'll put it that way. I'm fascinated by how they're handling Sweet Saudi J and the quick turnaround shipping up to New York, running that race. Can he settle back in and be the horse that we've seen? John talked about it. His best runs are at Laurel. Will he like the track again? Coming back, is the surface different enough? In his case, unfortunately for him not to like it on Saturday. I simply don't know. I'm fascinated by how they've handled him. And I'm almost rooting for him because he runs so much, right? I mean, it's one of those where, I don't want to say that, you don't want to quote unquote root for horses, I guess, but who cares also. But I love how they handle the horse, how much he runs. Seems to be ready to go all the time. I'm with you guys. I don't think that Jerome had anything to do in that case with anything except he was done. I mean, it just at some point that start was bad enough. And Kendrick did the right thing and pulled him up and all that stuff and jogged him out and all that. So I'm less worried about that. I'm interested there, but I do think Guinare is the class here.
All right. Well, there's be sure to tune in, watch a great day of racing. Might be at Laurel, might not. we'll have to just kind of see what happens.
Well, we do have to do the last race here because
oh, my fault. I forgot the race 11.
No, you're right.
Oh,
the last race here because they carded 9 horses here plus 1, and I made a comment that if we get these higher level races, we're definitely going to talk about them. So there you go. How about that? Plus, by the way, reminder, kids, play the pick 5, not the pick 4. Play the pick 5. The takeout rate is way better. Play the pick 5.
$27,000 purse is a mile for maidens, fillies who are 3 years old. Louis, who'd you like here? Irish Rage?
I mean, at some point, I have to go back to the Brittany Russell well, and I think it might be in this race with the 9 horse. A bunch of different starts, gets a bit of a layoff here. Ran last time at Timonium in a maiden special weight at 6.5 furlongs. For those of you not familiar with Timonium, that's a 5-turn race. And so coming back, I have to go back. I think it's going to be a little bit better, Laurel, for that horse. I would lean there. I wouldn't think about this race too much. I think, it's a first-time starter in here that I don't think is in here to win this race. I think it's just in here to get its legs underneath it in the 7-horse Design Diva out of the Trombetta barn. Otherwise, do you take the coupled entry? Maybe if they both run, I don't know, but I would probably lean pretty heavily on Brittany in this spot.
You get the ever so popular South Carolina bred, which I don't know how many. Who's the greatest South Carolina bred?
He's an interesting guy, actually. Yeah,
swaying to and fro, of course. Last year's Barbara Fritchie winner, who's was back on the work tab. Hopefully, she'll be back soon. I mean, if you want a story, that's a story. A South Carolina bred $16,000 claim ends up being a great stakes winner. Here's something for you.
There you go. All right, who do you like here, John?
I do like Brittany's horse quite a bit, Trouble Dreams, but obviously Brittany horses get overbet, so any chance I can't pick against them, I take it. I am to pick a number 2, No Walk in the Park on top for Kieran McGee and Martino Rojas, who rode, I thought, pretty well at the fall meet with her bug. A lot of these are coming out of the same race at Lowell on January 7th at this condition on a wet track, which you might see here. And No Walk in the Park, I thought ran the best out of any of them. Lost to an odds-on favorite, Determined Blue, who was much the best that day. No Walk in the Park rallied very well from off the pace, got a clear-cut second, improved her figure from her start 2 starts back. Now gets a little more distance. Her best career race came at 7 furlongs. Think she'll do just as well going a mile. I think Trouble Dreams is 9 to 5 on the morning line. No Walk in the Park is 6 to 1. Think that'll be a nice price. I also think the aforementioned Design Diva will get bet a lot. But as you alluded to, Mike Trombetta really doesn't fire with first-time starters. He does a lot better second and third time out. But they always get bet because they're Trombettas, and Jamie Rodriguez has them out. I'll fade her. It's No Walk in the Park on top, hopefully in a Walk in the Park.
I'm fading the favorite in here, the horse on the outside. I mean, she's going to be a pretty heavy favorite, but she's also plunging in class. She's lost 3 times, 4 times at 3 to 1 or less, and now she's stretching out to a mile for the first time. There are a lot of unknowns there, and it's not like she has such a tremendous edge over this field that I think she's a lock. I mean, it's been chalk for me in most of these other legs. I think Irish Rage is a horse I'm going to concentrate on. Forest Boys is one of the most popular horses, jockeys in Maryland. She's closing in on 1,000 lifetime wins. Irish Rage getting Lasix for the first time. This horse broke well last time out. They just got outrun behind a really fast pace going 5.5 furlongs. She had to steady turning into the stretch in behind horses, got the split, ran on at the end. I think there's just enough pedigree for her to last the 1-turn mile. And if there's some pace, I think Forrest is going to have Irish Rage out in the clear and rolling.
I will say this too, by the way, about Trouble Dreams. Just one quick anecdote is the horse that she lost to at Timonium last out is a Maryland bred named Lily Lightning. And I remember that race because Lily Lightning, trained by Ronnie Jenkins, owned by Mrs. Ellen Charles, who, are very well liked people in the region. And after that race, I was saying to Frank Vespi, hey, good for Ronnie, good for Mrs. Charles. It's a nice filly. Hopefully she does well. And Frank was kind of like, I don't know if she's going to be much. And she has not been much. So Frank was on to something there.
There you go.
But she got the win. That's what counts.
There you go.
Well, it's great to be back for our special Pimlico races. Look forward to the next one. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Good luck. Good luck on Saturday.
Hang on. Let's let people pub what they're doing. Dan, I'm sure you got Pegasus.
I thought we already kind of did that, but okay, go ahead.
He's
on DRF.
You should go to it because it's better than this.
All sorts of Pegasus video stuff, Daily Racing Form YouTube channel, latest on Laurel, including race previews and recaps at DRF_Dan Illman. That's where you find me.
He'll be at a Red
Lobster.
Lobster
with Ashley Maylou instead of our guy Beer, which this show does not like. You keep the beer in your life. You understand me, Dan Illman?
Oh, I'm with he's a light beer with some of his picks lately.
Oh man, well hopefully Messier shoots and scores for you, my friend.
Yeah.
There it is. John, you want to pub your stuff?
Yeah, find me on Twitter, as you can see, at They're Off. Professionally, I'm at Maryland TB. I'm at Maryland TB on Instagram as well. Facebook, find us at Maryland Thoroughbred and Maryland Voice Foundation. A lot of great stuff going on in Maryland Bred world over the last 2 months. If you're in the area, lots of cool stuff going on at the Maryland Voice Library and Education Center. Visit marylandvoice.com/library to learn more. As I mentioned, have the clothing drive going on, have the career program in the hopper. Lots of cool stuff coming up on social media, including our ever popular fall pictures, because everybody loves baby horses, and folks here in Maryland always love posting pictures of their newborns. So a lot of good stuff coming up. And once again, that is at Maryland TB on Twitter and Instagram, and Maryland Thoroughbred for the Facebookers.
Hey, John.
No OnlyFans for you?
He's got that feet website first. Hey, for your clothing drive, is there a way for our podcast to make a donation monetarily?
Yes, I will get in touch with Jeannie Schnell, as I mentioned. She's at Jeannie@MarylandThoroughbred.com, and on the phone, 410-252-2500, extension 113. And if anybody has anyone from out of town has something that you'd like to donate, just get in touch with her, and we'll help coordinate shipping.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, we're done for real this time. Zach, play us out. Maybe.
Is he here?
He's there. I'm hearing the music in the background. You know, it's going good. We'll see you guys next time on the Horse Racing Happy Hour.